This morning I was on my way down to the studio, and just around Challenge, as is Challenge by Motion Road, I saw some more queues as well too, as against fuel scarcity and all of that. And it still got to mind. We've been having this situation for quite some time now, and it seems like we're not seeing an end to it anytime soon. I don't know if you experienced that situation as well too on your way.
Yes, yes, I experienced such a thing, and it's quite very glaring that you see we run a cartel of gang and criminals who are in position of authority, and that suffice to say, NNPC has failed woefully beyond redemption, and it is imminent that, because of the greed that is there, because of the fact that people always want to import at the expense, that's the reason why the refinery will not work. Or in fact, they've been complaining, they've not even been able to give us a firm date they will work. The usual claim is this. The core claim is usually logistic problem.
Yeah.
Because NNPC will claim that they have 83 million barrels that was able to suffice. They were even given an indication that it will serve us in the next 2 or 3 months. But the question we now ask is, why is it that we have perennial scarcity? Perennial scarcity, they claim, is a result of the loading. Because of the road infrastructure is not good, that's what they claim. But I also know now that beyond that, there's some other motive.
Right.
So there's some motive in terms of pricing. We know today that government is subsidizing fuel. Because if you look at it carefully, from what the information I had, the landing cost of fuel, less the other logistic toll is almost 1,140 naira, which means that the NNPC sold at their own site at the rate of 555. That account for other logistics we are getting the same 650, 750 rate. That's obvious that they are subsidizing. Okay. And also because of the current devaluation. So when people say we are having a gain on fuel subsidy removal, I say, well, it's the gain we are having is more or less a gain as a result of devaluation. Because Nigeria has lost, Naira value has lost its value tremendously. I'm saying now that in the range of 70 to 80%. So our money, it's 10 now, 10 to mean nothing. Because take for instance, if you have like $1,000, you are $1,000 with you, we are more or less having almost close to 1,600 naira now for $1. That shows you, and it shows you the kind of the problem we have is so there is the logistic problem they claim, but we know now that look. It's not only NNPC. NNPC too is allowing for people to bring it. It's not only NNPC that is bringing it now. Yeah. That's the reason why we've been having some of the high sulfur content from on our fuel, and we know that one the Malta blending plant comes on board, which Dangote is fighting to be able to look at it because any fuel that comes in under the auspices of NNPC.
That's right.
But NNPC too also license other people that brings in the fuel in. And what we say from what I gather, say the other stations are selling sulfur content 1,800 mbp to 2,000, whereas the Dangote was saying started with 600 and something, and he says he has dropped about 30 mm per sulfur content. So which means, to the best of his knowledge, he's saying now that he is based on tests. His own is more superior than what they are putting. But be as it may, is all because something that is not available for us in the wider community, it is when we can get to be able to know. So what we're saying is a tug of war. But for now, it's lacuna, it's inconsistency, it's fraud, it's corruption that is making it, because we can't be giving excuses of road now.
At all time, basically. But of course, there are conversations outlined for us to have this morning, and you can be a part of the conversation by sending us a WhatsApp message as we begin the conversation. Talking about the seized presidential jet saga, where we have Pat Otomi and Amosun. They were basically trading tacos over the botched investment. And just to give you a few backgrounds to the seized presidential jet, I'll just give you some background. The presidential jet linked to Nigeria was reportedly seized in a foreign country due to issues related to a failed investment deal. Now, the exact circumstances of the seizure and the investment involved remains a subject first of controversy. Now we have Professor Pat Otomi, a renowned economist and political figure, and he has made statements suggesting that the jet was seized due to improper handling of the investment deal. They also have Senator Ibikunle Amosun, former governor of Ogun State, who was also involved in the investment deal, and he has denied any wrongdoing and has criticized Pat Otomi for his comment, leading to a public exchange of words. Now, key figures such as Pat Utomi, who is, of course, a respected academic political economist and also the founder of the Center for Values in Leadership, Senator Ibikula Mosu, the former governor of Ogun State, and all of that. However, the nature of the investment deal that led to the seizure of the jet, according to reports, is still very much unclear, but it appears to involve significant financial commitments and the failed execution or management of the deal that has now led to legal complications basically in the country. Now we have the presidential jet that has been seized and all of that. But of course, also recall that the incident has now sparked public debate with citizens and of course analysts weighing in on the matter. And of course the implications of such high-profile dispute between two prominent figures. Now we're not just talking about even the presidential jet that was seized, by a different country. We're also having Nigerians, for instance, Professor Pat Utomi and the former governor of Ogun State, Amosun, having weight of word. Now you follow through the story for some time now, yes. Dr. Kenny. First of all, what's your analysis on the situation?
Now, I followed the story. I mean, the e-stories and the escalation that are associated with it. What I can read between lines is greed. Suffice to say, Senator Amosun equivocally confirmed that he made a mistake. Made a mistake of cancelling one contract award to the other. You know, when you talk about heavy contract of that magnitude, that has a monetary reward, some mistake could be rather too expensive. That's what it means. Because why I'm pointing accusing figure to him is that you have a running contract going. The essence of what could have been better is to look at the merit and demerit of it and fine-tune what you're going to do. And look at and indemnify any action you want to do. That is, before you take an action, look at it carefully with a view to know what will be the risk analysis. Is it warranty? Is this on the safeguard? Because it's not all contract that you can cancel.
Yeah.
Because if you can, because some contracts are termed, they have sanctity, they are irrevocable, and also, but they're renewable. That most of the government contracts have sanctity. Sanctity in the sense that if you have the contract with them, if there's a default, either on the side of the contractor or the government, the payment that is attached to it. Irrevocable in the sense that because when you have contract term firm around the contract, robust contract, because nobody will just come and sign without a foolproof contract. That means what we're saying is this contract they're talking about falls on that level, which means it falls on the contract that has sanctity. Sanctity in the sense that it has to fulfill all the contractual obligation. Then you understand, and it has irrevocable in the sense that there's a clause between. It is warranty. That is, if there's any revocation of that contract, there will be charges accrued to that contract. Okay. And we're talking about $750 million. You understand? So which means I will see on the part of Ibikula Amosu, which our former governor, is greed. Because you cannot come and claim that you made a mistake, such an expensive mistake. Why I'm saying this is great is that, come to think of it, let's look at what Dangote. Dangote was supposed to be in Ogun State, no local. Is he going to say it's a mistake again? Why Dangote did not come? I'm trying to buttress on it. Is he going to say it's a mistake? We realize that from grapevine that is a part of negotiation. It's a greed involved with it. So I would term it as doing greed. The motive behind it is corrupt tendency, is greed. Because if actually you look at the contract, you must know that if you terminate a contract, you must prepare to mitigate against that contract. Okay. So I would say, and he has affirmed that he made a mistake. So somebody has claimed that he made a mistake. So if we want to, we'll blame him for the mistake. Right? We'll blame him for the mistake one because of the consequences of it. We also blame him for not taking into consideration setting the mitigation because the contract is a warranted contract. And also, it's not only him we're going to blame. We are going to blame also the new governor, the new government, because what it means is that because if there's a handover, the idea now that when you hand over from one administration to the other, it is such that you accept both asset and liability of that contract. Which means now that if you look at it carefully, even the present governor, though he's not involved in the contract proceeding, also has his own blame in the sense that when you have such a forward contract, it's just like the forward contract that was handed over by Buhari to Asiwaju. Asiwaju said he will honor all the forward contract.
Yeah.
You understand? That is the spirit and the continuity in the job. So I will blame Abiodun too.
Okay.
That look, I will blame in the sense that if you accept asset and liability of what you have read, it is expected that you will carry due diligence of every forward contract that you go with the view to also address some time before it comes to this. Now he's running. To the best of my knowledge, even though I blame him for the lacuna, for being a sleeping giant, but as of today, he's also moving on to run around to mitigate against this.
Look at the case of Pat Tommy as well too. Some Nigerians are saying, shouldn't have been a better way of handling the matter instead of coming public, instead of choosing to go public to express his grievances?
Look, Pat Tommy has a lot of case to answer. Let me tell you one thing: don't trust any investor in Nigeria. Because when contract proceeding did not favor them, they will come and cry. The question we're saying is this: why didn't they cry during the time of? Why didn't they cry when Amosu was there? That's first question.
Okay.
Secondly, this time around, why did he wait till this time around to cry out? The third, money ajegbodo when they cry. That is, somebody who is failing want somebody to fail. He is only looking for cheap sympathy. Let the truth be told. It is true. It is true. Land use, issue of land use and CEO manager belongs to the government. From what I read, I'm not part of it, was that because he knew that land that he built on, it is central. And you know, every government have their own master plan. He's aware that that place belongs to a highbrow area. It's a highbrow. It's just like having a land in VI, in Ikoyi, when it falls within the jurisdiction of the master plan of the state. He knew that, yes, he knew now that the next governor that is coming in, you understand? You know, his own case first started, you know, prior before Amosu. In Amosu's case, he knew now Amosu being the new government because he started with Benga.
Yeah.
You understand? It's true he has allocation for that place. And from the valuation I read, they said the valuation is in tune of about 35 million he has done. Because Amosu's challenge that they should go and do investigation. That he even proposed to settle it to the tune of 100 million.
Okay.
On that. That the greed of him is what cost him. That Patutomi was so greedy, he was asking for 200 million. That he was saying now that if they want to validate that, even though if he say he wants to claim 200 million, let us go and carry valuation, proper valuation, asset valuation of what you have done, with a view to know whether it's a power or not. He is saying he lost a lot of billion. You know, some of our politicians, I don't trust them. On the part of Utomi, I have a lot of issue in the sense that, one, why are you coming out? Why is it that when there was a problem, you are raising issue? Why is it that you never told the public? You only mentioned the billions you thought you lost. You didn't give us the details of what you have done. You are only coming and saying you don't into billion. We need to ask Patutomi. Patutomi, what happened to Volkswagen?
Let's read directly from what Patutomi said on his X handle, and also we're going to get a few replies by Omosun as well. Just very quickly, just try and summarize it. Now, Patutomi says on his X handle, he says, so it was Governor Amosun's violation of contract terms signed by his predecessor that brought the shame of seizure of jets from the presidential fleet. I hope he is happy at his achievement. He went further to say that the whole matter is karma at work. The Chinese were not the only victims. One prominent Ogun indigene allegedly committed suicide with similar Amosun action. Now, these are some words that Professor Patutomi used, and Amosun replied as well to, here are some of his replies in the press release. Now he said that Ogun Assembly had blacklisted Professor as enemy of the state before he came into office. And then his 200 million naira claim is not different from the case of Zhongfu of China. Now, former Ogun State Governor Senator Binkula Amosun yesterday said that the reason renowned Professor Pat Utomi posted some of those remarks about him on X was because he refused to feed his entitlement mentality or honor indecent influence peddling. as governor of Ogun State. Now, the former governor Amosun went further to say that Tommy alleged that he did not honor an agreement preceding his administration. Also, he hinted that the Ogun State House of Assembly had already declared Tommy persona non grata and described him as an enemy of the state as a result of his predilection for shoddy business deals in the state. And of course, if you look at this response as well too, is in line with what you've been trying to also explain to us, basically as regards that. But let's look at some of the political implications that this could also have, both in Ogun State and of course the nation at large. How might this dispute affect the political careers of both Professor Otomi and of course Senator Amosun, especially in the context of their broader political aspirations as well too?
Now, the only implication that we have is that the seizure of asset is a violation of sovereign immunity and international law. Now, but they are saying the dispute between Zongai and it should not affect federal asset. Nigeria, what we are saying, let's look at it carefully. There is a state, there is federal government.
Yeah.
This federal government enjoys sovereign power. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Though there is a measure of certain, so the power of sovereignty of the state derived from constitution. But diplomatic relationship to evaluation of the economy of the state and the prosperity of the foreign relationship rest with the government.
Okay.
So if you look at it carefully, that itself ought not to have come in on to be able to sanction the federal government.
That is the international
the international community, you understand?
Okay.
But they are only trying to look at it from asset point of view because they want to recover the asset. Because you cannot separate a state from the federal government when it comes to international community.
Okay.
But if you look at diplomatic relationship, they ought not to have seized our presidential day, but they probably look at it that is the only, not only seizing, they are looking for the other asset that belongs to Nigeria. So I'm saying now that yes, if you look at the sovereignty power rests with the government.
Let's look at our reputation, in the international community. Our reputation right now, a lot of presidents have said our reputation has been trampled upon. But in your own view, how does the seizure of the presidential jet affect our reputation as a nation, in the international level?
Well, if you look at it very well, if you look at it on the surface level, if you look at it with somebody who are full of political shenanigans, they will trade word to say it has discredited Nigeria, has not been a country that is transparent, just like my brother Obi is shouting that he has discredited. But I don't see it that way. It is true. It is when you go into nitty-gritty of that transaction. Who carried out the transaction? It's not the federal government. It's the state government. The only it means that it is the state that brought the embarrassment onto the federal government. So, in as much as we are talking about, we do. Because let me tell you, if you look at it carefully, every nation has immunity as far as there's immunity clause on every nation, as stated in international law. So, which means nations enjoy that immunity clause that you cannot subvert the cause, or you cannot do anything against them. You cannot discredit them. You cannot say something against them without. But when it comes to business transaction, it has dented the image because the sin of one is a sin of other.
Right.
In as much as the state is an entity of Nigeria, it means that it has caused an embarrassment. It's only an embarrassment. It doesn't affect our sovereignty because our sovereignty still suffice in the international community.
Yeah.
Because Nigeria is its own. Nigeria did not defraud and anything, and there was no forward contract that we had the problem. Even the PIB that was done, we won the contract. So if you look at it from the active participation in the contract, you will see now that Nigeria has that Nigerian government as an entity will not be blamed. But when we look at the fact that the sin of one is a reflection on the other, it means the shame that we have received now, the shame and an embarrassment and ignominy meted unto us by virtue of playing a lane on our asset is caused by Ogun State.
Yeah.
It's a misnomer.
Be that as it may, even if it was caused by one state, the disgrace came to the whole nation, basically.
Yes.
Well, let's look at future occurrences. What can be done to ensure that situations like this do not happen in the future, especially when it comes to managing state assets and, of course, the investments of states as well, too? That this doesn't repeat itself in the future.
Now, the one thing we do is Nigeria as a country should prioritize their assets. That is, Nigeria should declare all the assets as a national asset. National asset in the sense that they have a firm-up contract that has sanctity, that is irrevocable. Also, but the contract is subject to renegotiation, which is renewable. If we have prioritized it and create some level of immunity clause and proper assertion as regard to the liability. The liability clause determines what people can do or not. If, for instance, our asset, in terms of our firming up, in the clause, in the asset possession, we put a clause that if there's a default, not directly by the government, no nation has right to place a lien on any of our assets. That means that we must provide our assets with a view to forestall such occurrences. And also, it is time now for us to maintain vigilance, you understand, on our diplomatic and legal relationship. Why I said it is, if we want to safeguard our interests, it is time for government to go to even to perform a condition assessment of all forward contracts. To the best of my knowledge, the PIB contract that we know, from the legal numerary, they said we have all about 10 other contracts that suffices, that is just like PIB, that Nigeria is still liable. Most of the people in government who have served or will serve in Nigeria are endemically and systemically corrupt. It's the corruption aspect of it that we are talking about, you understand? Yeah. Because if it is not greed, you don't just cancel a contract. After when because government is in continuity,
right? So
which means on the part of government, we need to maintain vigilance through regulation and also through diplomacy, and also strengthen our immunity of our sovereignty, and also ensure that in anything we protect our assets in such a way that such a thing will not occur in the future.
You're talking about protecting the assets, to avoid the occurrence of it in the future. Do you think also that this particular occurrence that just happened could also lead to certain scrutiny or more scrutiny, into government transactions?
Let me be frank with you. Government transactions are very loose because people who did it for self-interest. That's why they say Nigeria belongs to no one, Nigeria belongs to all. Most of the contracts they do across the public sector, most of them, I'm not saying all, I will not be too strict, but most of the, and in as much as they did the contract, most of the contract is fraudulently skewed for selfish interest.
So there's no scrutiny. There's no proper scrutiny.
They should look at it. They should re-audit all the contract terms. Now that we've been embarrassed, which I'm happy anyway, even though it's Ogo State that caused the embarrassment, right? It happens to be my state. It's an indication that they should look at what we will. Look, it is because other people are not fighting. How about in Kaduna? All around the state, people who have been managed at the subnational level are endemically corrupt. Because people are too greedy, people are too capitalistic, some people want to make money for the next generation. And what we do is, most of the contract that we do in Nigeria by Nigerian government, they don't relate to people referendum. There's no people centrism approach in it. There's no productivity index approach in it. There's no auto impact assessment conducted due diligence. That is, people don't matter in what they do. It is when we have this problem we begin to talk. I think now that we've learned our lesson, there's a need for government itself to set a proper machinery to audit all the forward contracts. Now there should be a memo from the Secretary of State of Government in agreement with Chief of Staff. They should send a memo across the state that we have received an embarrassment. This is naming and shaming. We have received an embarrassment through one state, Ogun State, about the greed and inappropriate way of handling the contract, that counseling contract, that certain measures will be taken against them, and also ensure that they firm up, they prioritize our assets, they prioritize contractual agreement. There must be a clause, immunity clause on our asset. And also there must be a protection, the immunity clause must protect our asset against any further encumbrances To the best of my knowledge, it's a shame for Nigerian asset to be seized.
All right, we have Sheon sending us a message from Badagry, and he says that I believe Otomi is also corrupt, because why was he trying to twist Amosun into fulfilling the contract via awards and other means? Thank you so much, Sheon, for your thoughts this morning as well. As we wrap up this particular part of the conversation as well, too, what do you see could be the likely outcome of this dispute? Could it lead to legal action or further investigations?
Two things will come.
Okay.
Legal action has been it's going concern.
Yeah.
In fact, they have revoked the standard. Yes, they still maintain the sanctity of the law, the contract. Yes, I saw yesterday that the U.S. government, because U.S. will go into the merit of it. Yes, the incumbent, we need to pay. Yes. Legal action is already, and the sanctity on the asset is still there. So I want what government can do is to go into renegotiation of they go into negotiation of the pay to negotiate against the debt. Yes, they can put a file to negotiate the sum. That is what they can do as a because government is involved, because the asset is placed in there. So government will do. But going forward, there's a need for us to review all forward contracts at the state level, at the federal level, and also firm up protection against our assets. This has happened now. That's why I say this government is too reactionary. Most of what we're doing is audacious, but it's impulsive and reactionary. Most of until we are pushed. If truly the federal government say they will handle forward contract, the federal government should not be limited to themselves, because injury to one is injury to other. Now they've just seen the injury from one. Now we don't know all the injury that can come from other states, because people who are managing our state are endemically very corrupt. Hardly can you see anybody who has served, unless those ones that are very smart, that do not corruptly engage themselves in terms of award of contract, in terms of swap of contract, in terms of doing a law. That's why we're saying now that, look, he who must have for equity must have a clean hand. So hardly can you see people who serve the government that has a clean hand, because the intention is corruptly. People who have served in this, politics is the only game now. Yeah. Because once you go into politics, you will be monumentally rich, and the nation is monumentally poor.
All right, we have Babs from Surulere asking the question. He says, please, isn't our assets abroad enjoying immunity?
No. All our assets are not enjoying immunity. If they are enjoying immunity, they have even placed a lien on some of our assets. It's not enjoying immunity. In fact, most of our transaction is a third-party transaction. They create so many SPV. Hardly can you trace anything that is direct to Nigeria. So there's no immunity. It is now we need to frame up. Government should do audit of all our assets and put a protection clause on all the assets and look at the contractual agreement. You know, most of what we do, you know, we borrow a lot. They borrow at federal level, they borrow at state level, even don't be surprised. Local government too borrow. And the borrowing they are borrowing is not targeted towards improving the life of the people. Because they will say they do a contract, the contract will not suffice. We only suffice within the lifespan. After the lifespan, you see, look at most of the contract. We have more failed contract now. Almost 11,000 projects running into 15 trillion. At least I know of the Ministry of War. The contract they are doing is worth of outstanding is 15 trillion. And yet they have secured another 15 trillion to be able to do coastal road, which means 50% of our road network that could have enjoyed mobility of commerce. Right. We still do. Whose people are doing business now? Which business are people do? Good roads are not there. Power is not stable. Insecurity. So what are we talking about?